How great you did! What an incredible show you've got
Oh, was
lined
this
up.
good? Yeah, was it good?
Yeah, it was a good show.
Good show.
It was a good show, right? We got a good one for you guys this
Yeah,
month.
it was
We got
all right.
a horse moon.
Yeah.
A lot of tangents, snake ear. But we got all our segments in.
I mean, I
We
think
hit
the
all
basic,
marks.
what we said right at the top was like, how much control do you have over your own fulfillment?
Total control.
None. That would be some of the caution. But yeah, and I think that was kind of like kicked it off, like what we were discussing, like what is control, why don't we have it?
All right. Shout out Janet Jackson. Control. Enjoy the show. Really, really good tea for you guys this month. We want to shout out to Brian Kurbis at Teosophy Teas 2019 Jing Mai. I was there. I survived. I walked those mountains. Shout out Joshua, who, what was it? Chlorella?
Cholera.
Cholera. Yeah, shout out to Cholera. 2019 Jingmai Mountains. This is a young green, a Sheng Pu'er. However, now that it's 6 years, is it even still a young? Anyway, I'll ask Google.
It's middle-aged.
That's what we're drinking, and it is delicious. Shannon had recommended, hey, how about a oolong? And oolong just doesn't have the endurance to last the hour and a half plus conversations we have. So if you want the kung fu tea, get into your pu'ers. Okay, so we're having a 2019 young raw Jingmai Mountain pu'er. Thank you, Brian. Enjoy the show.
Teosophy.
Is there like a Mountain Dew flavor that?
Is that how we're starting this? I'm totally cool with it, but I just wanted to make sure.
Like Baja Blast or something that just sums up this moon phase.
Baja Blast.
Like Code Red.
Mountain Dew.
Yeah, the Mountain Dew flavors.
It's got an Arctic wind. I don't know. I mean, it is a water horse moon, so it is kind of, there's some tempestuous stuff going on.
Got it, right? Because water horse, that's like old horse, right? That's like
It's called the war horse.
the war horse.
Yeah, because it's it's technically the most emotional of all horses, according to the data that was left behind by Ming.
Okay.
And so it's considered the war horse. They're really interested in heroism. What I call it is that water horse chi is is the hill you're willing to die on.
Okay, there's the death part. Because
Hey, it took like 30 seconds.
because water, right? I
Yeah,
associate
water.
that with the oldest of the elements.
Right.
Right. And then so usually when we say water, that's the winter of life.
Yeah.
And so if I think water horse, I'm thinking a horse that's ready to get turned into glue.
I got you. Yeah, there's a lot of different analogies you could look at hexagram 2, because there's the allusion to the mare, that the solitary mare that's in Ming's Zhou hexagram 2, talking about the solitary mare that is representative of Earth, and it's a winter image.
Hold on.
That's
Solitary mare.
in the woods, that's sort of
Solitary.
hesitant about like
Can you just say lonely horse?
no.
Why do you use these fancy ass words?
Solitary mare, I think he said.
You just say lonely horse, dog. Come on. I'm
No,
from
no. I mean, you can be solitary and not lonely. I'm just saying.
Nuance.
I got to figure out which ones I'm hitting.
Let
Yeah,
me turn this up a little bit.
there's a sense in which there's a hesitancy in that image, and that's mostly the teaching around that hexagram and the use of that image of the solitary mare that's not quite sure if they want to participate. Right. So there's this holding back that's representative. I think that what it was trying to convey is this kind of notion about winter, but of course that's not where we are. But like there is this, there is the water element in relationship to the summer. Just means that there's a whole lot of emotion going around. And so that ultimately would then speak to, issues of the Hun spirit, and our emotionality and the kinds of ways in which we get kind of distracted by our own expectations.
I just got distracted by having my expectation blown away. Wow. You want to smell this real quick? Shout out Brian over there at Theosophy 2019 Jingmai. Wow. I remember when this was a young shung.
Yo, that.
Now is it an aged shung now? It's 6 years. It's like after 5 years. Is that technically aged now?
Horse years.
It's like in dog years. His tea is old, bro.
It's ready to drive. He could join the military. Speaking of warhorse. Yeah, I mean, really, in the fifth moon in general is, I think, a great illustration of why the cosmology of the Tongshu isn't exactly enamored with summer. Because even though it might be a time for fulfillment, the big question that comes up in any fifth moon is exactly how much control over your fulfillment do you have?
I have total control over my fulfillment right now.
Right.
Wow, this tea. Well, you're gonna have some total control over your fulfillment right now as well. Look at
Bring
this.
all that control. You need a bigger cup, more control.
That's an inside joke, guys.
Yeah.
I need a bigger empty cup.
Yeah. They don't talk about that in the Buddhist teaching, right? How big your cup is.
Shout out Chani for making us look beautiful. Just neglected on pouring Chani a cup. Pardon.
It's because she didn't have her own cup.
Word of advice: if you are ever invited to this temple, bring a teacup. We drink tea here. Just bring a teacup. It's a thing. You can tell who's a part of the in crowd because they have their own teacup. There was a time when they had their own teacup and their own Stanley thermos. That's how you could tell.
Ooh,
They were
yeah, I remember the Stanley
serious,
thermos
right?
people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you knew they were serious.
This is my third infusion.
Dude, smell that.
Wow, this is really nice. We're just going to talk about the tea. That's really good.
Okay, so horse, full water horse in a wood snake year.
Yeah.
What's the implication? What does it mean, Shannon?
It's tricky. I think that, again, with the fifth moon, when you talk about the fifth moon in general in the cosmology, the Tongshu, I think any fifth moon is a perfect illustration of why this particular cosmology wasn't exactly enamored of summer like we are. We think summer is the basis for all good things. And in the cosmology of the Tongshu, it's often a time of threat. Right, because it is, yes, like right now we're in the second phase of the three-part phase of Yang's ascension, right? Yang Qi gets 6 weeks every year to like blow up, right? To really ascend and really push all form into positions of growth and transformation. So it is currently driving the show, right?
Is it always in horse moon?
Yeah, in one way or another, yes. 2 of the 3 will be in horse moon. Sometimes it's the second and the third. Sometimes it's the last half of the first, the second and the first half of like this year, the first half of the third. But the fifth moon is always in ascension. Right? So the fifth moon is a time of ascension. So in some sense, it's like it's caffeinated. Like
It's a Monster Energy drink.
it's a Monster Energy drink, right? So the idea behind that is especially if you're thinking about implications from a wood snake year, or any snake year is that what did we talk about with respect to the snake year? Switchbacks. Snakes don't go. Snakes don't go in reverse. They always go forward.
Same with horses, right? Horses don't look back.
Yeah, they're always going forward, right?
Uh-huh.
But snakes don't slither backwards. They go forward, and they may do these hairpin turns all the time. So essentially, even though you're in this place of ascension, you're probably also dealing with a lot of hairpin turns, and it feels like you're kind of going nowhere.
Oh, like Lombard Street. Shout out San Francisco.
Right. Or any of the, I was out over in Bolinas just yesterday and like going through all the Tamalpayas. It's like, you're doing these really hardcore turns. So if you don't know how to tap the brake or to use deceleration, you're going to crash. And that is really the issue when it comes to the fifth moon, which is why the cosmology of the Tongshu, the Chinese civilization and culture, doesn't really trust it, because you have no control, and that's the idea. Like, how much control do you have when Yang is ascended? Not a lot, unless you've done the hard work of establishing all the disciplines. So you can think about the fifth moon as a kind of result, like this sort of first stage also of completion, of not closure, because movement is still happening, but then you actually start finishing things. You actually start bringing things forward so that they can be completed, right? So there is a kind of, and there's also a sense of resulting that comes with that too. So you get these sort of first harvests, right? Or you get these,
Cherry picks.
right? You get all this sweetness that kind of comes forward, right? So a lot of that has everything to do with how you've conducted yourself through the third and the fourth moon in particular, right? So if you've authenticated your directions, and if you've built your alliances and developed a sense of merit in your connections, then you can actually do very well. There is a sense of fulfillment where things are actually just naturally moving forward on their own. But then you can also imagine if you haven't done that, or if you're in an ecosystem where none of those things are happening, then this isn't heaven's activation of your dream. This is the activation of all things are moving forward. So you're in an ecosystem where there's a lot of competing things vying for fulfillment. So summer isn't just a time for God's chosen people to rise up. This is a time where all things are activated. And so is there chaos? You bet. Are you going to need to adapt and constantly reassess, like hairpin turns, what your capacities are for fulfillment and what your resources are? You bet. That is the nature of the fifth moon. That it's just a prerequisite. How disciplined are you about the conservation of your yin, which is your resources? So that could be money in your pocket, that could be the tools that you use, how well you take care of them, but it could also be like your nervous system. How well are you taking care of your internal energy? How are you depleting your resources right away, or are you finding ways to rejuvenate them? Because remember, in winter, what do we say? We conserve yang by get it to move inside, and shield it from the outward yin that would exhaust it. Well, in summertime, yang is everywhere. The world is on fire. So how do you keep yourself cool? Like, how do you nourish yin inside? So that's from an American. This is the American moon. The fifth moon, the horse moon, is the American moon.
Horsepower.
It's go as fast as you can.
It's pretty Daft Punk, huh?
Right.
Bigger, harder, faster, stronger.
But if you have like a water horse moon where there's a lot of emotional connection to it, it gets tempestuous. You get water. Fire is horse is a yang fire element, and then you add water to that. It's still yang element, meaning that it's directed, right? It's not like dousing a campfire with the ocean. but it's like a stream, so it's like a turbine, right? So you can think of it in that way. But there is a kind of potential for things to go off the rails like that, or for us to be reactive if things aren't necessarily going our way. So that's another reason to, nourish kidneys, take care of your liver, right? Because that's the hun, and your emotions just sort of getting out of control. So this could be a characteristic time for sleeplessness.
So what that means, take care of your kidneys, take care of your liver, is go to sleep early, don't
Yes.
party too hard.
Don't burn the candle at both ends every day for 4 weeks, or 6 weeks. Like actually pace yourself, right? Again, tap the brakes or decelerate to know how to maneuver the unexpected, because you can't expect the unexpected, and when everything is activated and moving in all directions. It's kind of like the billiard break, right? So we've already broken the billiards, but they're just still in motion and kind of bouncing off each other, which is the biggest reason why, through the first 4 moons of the year, there's so much emphasis given to how well you prepare. Like, what is your preparation? Because by the time you get to the 5th moon, you're already in flight. So it's a little bit like, so trying to change directions or build something brand new, try something out, like all of these things is a little bit like, trying to change a flat tire in a moving car. You can do it. Like, you're gonna need help. Like, have you ever seen those? I think it's India. They had this video of like these dudes. They rolled up onto 2 wheels, and the dude's like leaned outside, like changing the tire.
Dude, that's got to be like some Saudi Arabians or something.
Something like that.
Some
It was
oil
crazy,
money.
to witness that. But it's possible, but it's very risky.
Not advised, yeah.
Not advised.
Even the F1 racers, they know pit stop.
Stop. Yeah, stop and have it changed, right? But that's those are boundaries. Those the sense of discipline. It's the reason why horses and dogs are friends, because dogs will provide boundaries to horses, but the horse chi in it of itself isn't predisposed to boundaries. It's only predisposed to movement. So the productivity of the movement that you're enhanced by is entirely dependent on the boundaries that you bring to it, like the discipline that you bring to it. So you can use gasoline in a combustion engine, or you can burn a house down with it. Like the gasoline doesn't care like which way, it's just the fuel, right? And so that's yang fire. It doesn't discern, it just burns. So how are you harnessing that that energy? All depends on all the preparation that you've done in the last few moons. But once we're here, like, it's kind of no going back. We're all going forward. There's slow down and decelerate and tapping the brakes, but you're still moving forward. It's too late.
This is it.
Yeah, it's too late to stop. So you either land it or crash it, or you can change directions in some respects, of course, but that would be sort of limiting your capacity for fulfillment. So you get sort of half results. It's kind of like uprooting the plants that you put down and putting new ones in. Like, they'll still grow and they'll still do their thing, but you don't really get the yield that you would have got if you actually went through the entire season with it, right? So you can think of it like that. But so it's a kind of squandering, and we do it all the time. So you can do it, and nothing to stop you. If you really want to change directions right now, because for some reason or another you're not satisfied, and that's a possibility in this time, is to really fully discover that your life has been a lie and you're not satisfied and you need to change everything. This is snake year. When everything is so amplified and in motion, on the go, like, and you can no longer sustain your dissatisfaction, like, you break open, then you have no choice but to make, I have to change everything. And so then it's like collapse, and everything burns down and you start over. So, that's why the data says like the fifth moon is a time where life and death are like right there next to each other, right? You can either get tremendous growth and all this like bounty, like amazing, delicious bounty that you're then going to have to sort through over the next few moons, or everything just explodes in your face. Like same from the standpoint of the horse. Same. There's no preference there. It's only what you're bringing into it.
Well, kind of to that point, there's no difference between anxiety and excitement, right? The only difference is movement.
A friend of mine would, an old mentor of mine would say, it's just the breath. It's the only difference between the two.
Yeah. Because neurochemically, it's the exact same.
Right.
Right. But what I do with it, right? So am I breathing or am I...
Right. Am I tensing up with it? Right. Am I allowing it to move? Yeah. So like great levels of inspiration, but also stress the fuck out, because I have so much on my plate and I'm so stressed out. And like we live in a culture where we actually are cooler the more stressed out we are. Like we expect toil without end. That's where we are right now. So it's a very interesting pattern to recognize in a snake year that's our inheritance and everybody's sick of it. And we feel like we have boots on our neck and these sorts of things where all the emotions about that kind of come forward, where I feel like there's this toil and toil and toil without end.
See, that's an interesting thought, though. It's like, okay, I get that that's an American thing.
We can get meta about it.
I get it, right? But even your boy Buddha is like, life is suffering, and first noble truth. So, how far different is it?
Yeah.
The endless toil or life is just suffering.
Not so much sure that Buddha would have put the tie back on, though. Once you make that revelation, the call of that path is that's the first yana. That's Shravaka yana, to like, I'm out. Once you recognize that life is suffering, like why am I perpetuating my suffering? There is another way. Yeah, I mean, you can get relativistic with it, but that just shows that you have kidney chi left. You still have resources to burn, my friend. No problem. I can struggle for another 5 years.
You can still argue privilege.
Yeah. Yeah, you haven't collapsed yet? Yeah. So like this is it's kind of an emo horse. Yeah, that's where we are. It's this kind of emo space. Emo horse.
Well, speaking of emo horses, there's a qigong for that, and how appropriate.
Right. Exactly. The horse.
And when you do this qigong, it will stir the emos.
Man.
All right, horse moon. What better qigong than the horse stance? Okay, it talks about the endurance. It talks about the heat of the season. Talks about the kind of pushing through the pain. Right, the horse stance kind of sums up this little go time of year that we're enduring. So for horse stance, really, really simple. I don't want to spend too much time on it. You can get instructions on this anywhere. But the gist of it is get those legs spread nice and wide apart. And you want to get them wider than your shoulders, okay? And note how you end up with a triangle shape with your legs. Now, before we do any bending of the knees, first note where your weight is, right? Try to put your weight into your heels, that way you can kind of grip the earth with your toes. And from that space, go ahead and bend the knees out and settle into a comfortable stance. Now, for some sacred geometry here, I'll stand back up to see that my legs make a triangle. What we want to get into is from a triangle into a square, all right? And what you don't want is you don't want any of these kind of pentagons where the knees go out further than the feet. Not comfortable, right? So get a nice wide stance and turn that triangle into a square. If I turn sideways, you'll also see that my back line is vertical. You don't want to get into these pitches where your butt sticks out and your head tilts forward. Ideally, again, keep your back straight and your head high, and this will help if you keep your weight in your heels and grip the earth with your toes. Okay. Now, in the conversation of endurance, there's kind of a low tech tool that you can bring into the equation. I call it the staff, right? And so this is one of those traditional Shaolin staffs. They don't make rattan like this anymore, or should I say, they don't grow rattan like this anymore. But it has these nice little noise makers at the end because a traditional horse stance is done so low that you can rest the staff on your thighs. And of course, when it burns so much that you have to get up, those noise makers lets your teacher know that you quit. Okay. And so you don't have to be traditional and you don't have to go down so low, right? So traditional would have you down like this. A modified modern horse stance would have you up at a more comfortable space, and go for a minute, go for 3 minutes, go for 10 breaths, whatever you have to monitor the time. Try to enjoy yourself amidst the pain. That's your Chivo.
Well, it's endurance.
Yeah.
It's endurance. It's like if you're going to actually be productive in this time, we can talk about the horse from a very positive respect, because horses need a track to run. Otherwise, like a fire horse just jumps the track and goes off into the hills, and has no interest in the race, right? Well, the water horse will run the race, it may not be the first, but it will finish it, and preferably the more obstacles, the better, because there's a kind of glutton for punishment that comes with the water horse as well. That there is such a devotee to the process and even to the pain, right? That it shows that they're actually deeply invested. So you can kind of corral this energy into something really meaningful, for sure. This is a time for fulfillment. And it just may not look like what you expected. And like, when is it ever like what you expected? That's a fair question. But that doesn't mean it can't be satisfying. But you have to find that in your own experience. You have to find that in your own appetite, that sense of satisfaction. And that would be the encouragement this moon, is that, build that endurance, resilience. Like, we need to be resilient during this time. If you're actually going to ride the horse, you need to be able to hold on, right? And have that sense of resilience in what you do. And then it can be really, really profoundly fulfilling experience to actually feel that satisfaction of something finished. And that's one of the major cautions with horse chi, is open-ended projects, bad idea. Like, actually have, there's an expiration date on this, or this is the goal, or we get to this part. I know there's more to come, no problem, but set yourself some kind of finish.
Yeah, wrap it up.
Right. Like, get to a place where you can actually either set it down, even if you don't, even if you continue on with it. You're like, I did a little extra, but I only needed to get to this point. That's the agreement that I made with myself. And you can do that. It doesn't have to be like a summer's finished and here's my art project. It can be every day. It can be every day. I had this this morning, I was having that dialogue with myself. I was like, oh, actually, I did this, and then I set that down, and blah, 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 blah. And you have that in your head, I did actually complete things. Like, I may have some kind of projection or expectation of myself for I wanted to be this far, right? But I can still recognize how much I did do, and realize the value of that and how it fits into a bigger picture. So, it's just about having that kind of relatedness to your own effort. I think is the most important, and being able to be grateful for what you're actually accomplishing and feel a sense of satisfaction is evidence that you still have your yin intact. But if you're just like, I need more caffeine so I can stay up for 4 straight days, you're losing yin by the second, and it will take forever for you to recover and to understand the value of what you dedicated yourself to do. And the momentum of the water horse will do that. You just get caught in that undertow. And the next thing you know, it's like a week later. And you can't even remember what you did, Don't do that. Don't do that. Go for a walk. Break it up. Break it up. Break it up.
Bet. Well, that's a juicy one.
Yeah.
Should we get into our segments?
Which one? Segments?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which one? Ming?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and I think about Ming and I hear that tune now.
I can see his eyes roll.
Right. What would Ming be doing? Well, he'd be doing something. He'd be doing something, you know, like,
Yeah.
and he would, yeah, there would be some effort toward, yeah, like construction of whatever project that was going on, probably in relationship to the students. It's a great year to learn. It's also a great year to go on retreat, or maybe he would have taken students on retreat.
That's funny you say that. Yeah, my intuition was he'd be going out to eat. I remember going to Korean barbecue with him. you
Yeah.
know, just
Spot across the street.
yeah,
So
get
good.
that ox knee.
So man.
Yeah, dude. Just
Korean barbecue on Telegraph is like the best.
yeah, he was a lot of fun to just go and eat meat with and talk story with. I loved how he would dip his kimchi in water before he ate it. Blue. I'd do that to this day.
Take the edge off. Well, that's the thing about, like, if you do really want to preserve your yin during summer, and especially in this water horse moon, enjoy yourself. Actually enjoy. Don't work yourself to death. Like, actually enjoy yourself. Go out to eat. Like, sit around. Like, watch the sunset. Whatever. Like, like engage with your environment in this much more enjoyable way rather than a productive way. Productivity is happening of itself. Like, that is the cosmology. To understand the fifth moon is to say that nothing is at rest. So it's a perfect time to sit back and watch the show. Like, watch everything change of itself. Wu Wei Dao, right, is to be reluctant, is to be pulled forward into action, and then that the timing is there, the Tao has your back, like that you're in the actual flow of it. And the temptation of the horse moon is to push all the time, but that's not the only technique that's available, right?
That's a really interesting conversation. I remember when I taught in the Chinese medicine schools, and I would kind of break down the human experience from like standing, walking, sitting, lying, and all that. When we talk about walking, I would pose the question, are you a back foot pusher or a front foot puller?
Yeah.
Right. And then so when you talk about being pulled into action, pulled into activity, or being like inspired into something, that seems like back foot push, right?
There's a hexagram for that. The hexagram 31.
There's a hexagram for that.
Well, it's not the one that I was going to talk about actually, but it's the one that we're in. So hexagram 31, because we're headed toward the solstice, right? So that's like the crescendo of Yang's arrival, and it's a bit of a plateau for a while, going into the next moon, and then we start the descent, right? So we're basically reaching cruising altitude. If you want to continue with these plane metaphors, right? We're reaching this kind of cruising altitude place that will carry us through the solstice when everything peaks. And that's where that would be, the hexagram on that would be hexagram 30, which speaks to, it's Li, double fire, or Li, Luo is the two doubles. And they just speak to this radiance that is essentially summer solstice. And in that space, it's a recognition of, like, it's the step back moment of, like, what have I been giving my effort to? What have I been dedicating myself to? It's this moment of clarity, and to understand that, like, okay, it's almost closing time. Yeah. So whatever it is I want to do, I actually do need to apply myself for one last push or another round of activity before I have to start thinking about slowly wrapping things up, right, and bringing things to conclusion. So it's like put up or shut up, or be bold if you need to, like step into it, because this is it. So that's hexagram 30, but related to that is hexagram 31, which speaks to inspiration, right? Rising up through the toes, going, all the way up into the abdomen, into the heart, the head, so it's a really amazing hexagram
That
for
was like last week's Qigong, right?
Right. So it's a really amazing hexagram for this kind of navigation of inspiration as moving through the body, and that how it sits in the body then becomes a divination technique. Like much to the idea of like, I had treatment today with my acupuncturist, and he asked me how I am, and I sometimes I'd listen to my voice, like meek or like, yeah, I'm okay, like that's a diagnosis, like how is my voice presenting, and that's my lungs, right, and how I'm showing up, and how it's integrated to other things, right. So there's a lot of different ways that your physiology actually reveals your diagnosis just by its operation. You know that better than anybody, right? So
See it all the time in clinic.
it's part of what we're navigating. Even in this season, it's really important to pay attention to, because that's actually an indication of your inner resources and how they're able to access, the vitality, that's available to all of us at this time. But ultimately, Wu Dao is to understand. Just remember, the wind is at your back, right? So you don't have to start running if you're not feeling it. You can actually just put the thing out and be pulled along, right? So that's what we would want to do, or at least that's the priority in the ecosystem or in the cosmology, because it's generally understood that whatever's happening in that respect is you're going to be, that it will be appropriate. The results will be appropriate when we push forward from desire, greed, aversion, things of these natures. Not quite sure how it's going to turn out. So it's not a question of, moral failing. It's about reliability, right? So if I push forward out of this passionate place or emotional investment, even if I'm fated to do it, my results may vary. Right? Like it could, right, it'll work out, but like if I'm versed, and if I'm compliant, if I'm in dialogue with the Tao, and I'm practicing this sort of recognition of symmetry, then when I move, it's like I didn't move at all. And the next thing you know, like it's in front of me. Yeah. It's hard to put your finger on that or describe that, but that's available.
Like a magician, dude.
It's available. It's available.
Sounds like the mystery of manifestation right there.
Yeah. Because it's all manifesting right now, all the time. That this is the season in which that manifestation is inevitable. Can't stop, won't stop.
Dude, do you like? It's very affirming talking to you, man. Because I think I mentioned it before we started recording today. It's like you're talking about all the things that I'm writing about right now.
Right.
And literally using the words that I'm using. Too. The can't stop, won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. That's a wayism.
That's a wayism for sure.
That's 100% a wayism. Can't stop, won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. Perfect segue. 24 flavors of slow.
Yeah. Yeah.
He knows me.
So 24 flavors of slow.
That's like alert, right? There's a qigong for that.
That's true. 24 flavors of slow. what kind of slow is there with the horse moon? Not a lot, right? So this is like I said, Yang is in control. It's for the fifth moon, it's in charge, right? It gets one moon out of 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it makes a big impact, right? So we need it, right? We need it to push growth and transformation. So the flavor of slow in this way would be like tapping the brakes. Just know how to tap the brakes. You're not going to stop, but if you're going to want to navigate the switchbacks, that the snake is going to provide, or just as a result of this sort of interconnected, chaotic system, that that all things are being stimulated into motion. Bob and weave. That would be another flavor of slow. Not necessarily trying to put your shoulder into it, but you're just trying to get around obstacle or know how to slow down, see things coming, having a vision, as much as possible, and being able to navigate by tapping the brakes or decelerating just a little bit, and knowing how to coast, knowing when to coast, knowing when to put the gas on. So these are all sort of techniques of slow, is that kind of modulate your acceleration. And if you're on the straight, like gun it or conserve a little bit of energy. You don't want to burn out too fast because you can see what's coming, etc. So, I mean, use your imagination in this respect. Like I use these vehicle metaphors to talk about it, but I think it's you could use the same sort of vehicle metaphor for flight, being in flight and turbulence and knowing how to either drop down or go higher, with respect to navigating those kinds of obstacles. Because obstacles are kind of guaranteed just because everything's in motion seeking fulfillment. So there's a lot of tension and things pulling in opposite directions. And more so in especially disorderly society like ours, so things are crazy because we live in a zero-sum world. So that kind of dedication and that sense of like that your only legitimate measure of your for fulfillment is a satisfaction of personal desire. This is all madness, from a Chinese perspective. It's complete madness, and like the propagation of that and the acceleration of that attitude does nothing but exhaust the capacity for life. So, have some gratitude and like help each other out, like actually be a good presence and understand that other people deserve fulfillment as well.
Dude, get out of my head. Gratitude and help people out. I swear, we were talking about the 6 hell realms the other day, and the only way out, gratitude and service.
Yin.
Yeah.
And that sense of like compassion, and not in a, I don't know, like woo-woo sense of compassion, but to understand that like all resources are collective. So it took several people to make a contribution to the clothes you're wearing,
I mean, these custom threads.
These custom threads.
You know what I'm saying?
These yeah. Took 25 people.
25 grandmas. Measure me at once.
But that's the point, right? Like you're not, nothing is ex nihilo, from nothing. That's not available in this cosmology, like at all. There was no beginning. There will be no end. There's only interconnection.
Dang, Abraham.
Just saying. Like there was no beginning. There will be no end. Like this doesn't stop. And so you might as well make like a good thing of it. Like
cute Ice Cube. Are we there yet?
Yeah. So tap the brakes, give other people a ride. Like,
that's the,
you know me.
That's the flavor of slow.
Give other people a
Give
ride.
another person a ride.
Nice. Well, that's the advice for the domestics for sure. Stick together.
Yeah, we'll get through it together.
But I definitely resonate with people who are having those kind of difficult emotional moments because like um, our livers are being greatly stimulated right now by like all just this rise of activation. So, and the liver and the Hun spirit is in control of all the emotions in the Chinese cosmology. So, it's it's rough. Yeah, it's rough. More for the domestics, I think, than others. But it's a horse is not gentle necessarily, not at all. And again, just to go back to the beginning, that's the reason why Chinese cosmology, the cosmology of the Tongshu, is like, yeah, summer's cool. We need it, and also it's kind of a threat. It's not. You'll feel it now. Hopefully, this year you'll get to autumn and you'll be like, autumn's cool because it's way more chill. It's actually people more inclined to get along instead of being so activated because this summer is the season when you can more easily imagine that you have a self and a path. And that puts you at odds with other people. So that's where we get the fantasy. Like we can see it, we can feel it because that's what the season provides, this kind of level of activation that you are separate from other people. And that's one of the main dangers of summer is like, whoa, just kind of back up a little bit. Understand that your actions have implications for everyone around you. So that's what we call discipline, and some level of modesty and consideration. And so if you can navigate summer with that kind of modesty and consideration, then no matter what happens, it's positive, right? If we're only judging our success by like acquisition, material fulfillment, you're a little bit dumb. You're actually a little bit dumb. You're
Wow.
You've got emotional issues.
You hear that, 90s, 2000s bling bling rappers?
Just saying.
They're all about that materialism. You're dumb. I was dumb.
And by dumb, it's obviously just meaning to say like you don't see the whole situation. And so you may actually succeed, but you won't have satisfaction. So this is great tea.
Yeah, man. We actually went to Jingmai Mountain in 2019, and so we were part of March Harvest. And so when this came out, I was like, yes, please. This like literally takes me back to the mountains that we got to walk through. Yeah, one of my buddies got Corolla. What's it called? Corolla? Not colitis. Corolla?
Cholera?
Cholera. Yeah, one of my buddies got cholera on
It
that
got
trip.
cholera.
Yeah,
Wow.
just drinking spring water from the mountains.
Oh.
It's like, this is from the tail end of the Himalayas, bro. You drink this. Ooh, he had the shits.
Tail end of a deer is what that was.
Yeah. But that mountain, woo. Cheers.
For the water horse moon, we're going to discuss the trines, and we're going to start with the fixed trine, which is the rooster, ox, and snake. And the main takeaway for all three of these is to don't go off script, stick with the program, play to your strengths. Never really mind the rest. The horse moon can be a little bit chaotic. And so this is particularly the most vulnerable of these three would be the rooster. Because multitasking could be a hazard for you. Getting caught up in the details of projects tend to blur together. And you won't admit your confusion, which is only going to exacerbate the situation and potentially end up feeling humiliated. Bad news, right? You'll feel trampled. So just try to minimize the chaos in your own atmosphere and play to your strengths. It won't be perfect and you shouldn't expect it. So snakes appear to thrive in the chaos because as they relax, and they should relax, from their perspective, everything tends to fall into place more naturally, so relax. And for oxen, the best thing they can do in a horse moon is punch the clock. and keep it routine. You're basically going to be a source of a central point in your community. So if it feels chaotic to you now, the next 2 moons aren't going to get any better. With the goat moon, which tends to not be your most favorable time, so practice your horse stance and just keep a central point of reference for everyone else. Domestics in a horse moon, they benefit by emphasizing teamwork. So work closely with others, carpool and share resources. You should collaborate and help each other finish things, even if it's not something that's directly related to your project. Helping your friend finish something, moving or something like that. That's a great activity for the domestics. In particular, goats is one of the 2 that we should watch this moon, because like the dog, there's a shift coming for the goat, and they'll be starting to ride a swell of chi that's supportive for goats, that's going to take them from this summer all the way through 2027. So it's starting to look, things are turning around for the goat, which is great. So activate, continue organizing, and do all those kind of domestic things, and expect changes. Don't get stubborn. Collaborate, be flexible. Rabbits should go on vacation. It's you lead the way this time by finding a nice quiet place to relax and inviting your friends. So horse tends to be much too busy, much too loud for you, and will kind of crash in on your nervous system. So soothe your situation as much as possible. And pigs, congratulations on surviving the double snake. Don't overextend yourself. It's, it could, like the rabbit, it could be a little bit much for you. So a little multitasking is okay, but don't exhaust your kidney chi with like never-ending toil. Bad news. Tend to your yin by prioritizing enjoyment. It doesn't have to be a big party. It's the little things that really count. Enjoy summer. So this is for the water horse moon for what I call the advancing trine, which is the dog, the tiger, and the horse. Let's say dogs, similar to the goat, are at a turning point, but it's not as immediately supportive for dogs as it is for goats. So the situation is a little more tenuous for you. So go slowly and prioritize recovery. You're coming out of a really dramatic time out of this transition from dragon into snake. So it's good to prioritize recovery and go slowly. Don't expect a miracle right away. You might have to, keep treading water for a little bit, but be in a place of helping, because that will help revitalize you. The more you do well for others, the better you feel. So find ways to relax and experience enjoyment. Team up with like pigs and rabbits. The tiger, it can be a good time for you to come out and stretch your legs a minute, but don't stray too far from your spot in the tall grass. You're doing a lot of introspection and you're doing a lot of strategic thinking right now. So it's good to kind of exercise your vision a little bit, because you have good foresight in your vision for the next year or 2. So you might be a little twitchy, and that's okay, but practice pouncing on small game. Be playful. With whatever you catch, though, kill it and eat it. Make sure you finish it. Complete things. This is a good time for you to practice completing things, because that's going to be useful for horse. Horse in a horse moon kind of depends on the maturity of the horse. Specifically, as a young horse, this might be a really good time for you to mess up. If you're a more mature horse and more organized, it's a really good idea to advance. So you could be galloping, or you could have your feet tangled up underneath you. It can kind of go either way for you. But all these things just contribute to the advancement of your own maturity and your own skill set. Okay, so the advancing trine in the water horse moon, which is your horses, your tigers, and your dogs, the main takeaway is to stay on task and complete things, and don't disregard your team, and practice tapping the brakes, as we were talking about in the main video. For the dog, they don't have to worry about not paying attention to their teams. They're immersed in team. So they are the ones to watch. They're about to turn the corner like the goat, But in the case of the goat, which is a little bit more favorable, the dog, it's a little bit more tenuous. So they should go slowly and prioritize recovery rather than advancement. Don't expect a miracle right away for things to immediately turn around for you. So you might have to tread water for a little bit longer. So find ways to relax and hang out with pigs and rabbits. Tigers, this is a really good time for tigers, and they're already kind of doing this, kind of stretching their legs a bit. You know, the horse is very encouraging for forward movement, and for them to kind of exercise their orange stripe. And in a year of the wood snake, where they're kind of more rewarded for going inward and being a black stripe. So the black stripe is all about how they're developing their vision for future action. So this might, right now, they might be a little bit twitchy about the things that they want to get moving on. So practice pouncing on small game, like try yourself out, stretch your legs a little bit, be playful. But whatever you start, you know, complete it, like finish things. This is a good thing to practice for the upcoming horse year. And as for the horse, it's gonna be a really, really powerful time for you, but it really depends on the level of discipline and maturity that you bring to your projects. Either way, it's going to be pretty revelatory and a very good barometer of where you are in your relationship to the things that you care about. So it's the emotional moon for horses. So if they've cultivated a lot of maturity, they could get to a place where they're kind of galloping along. But if they haven't developed that kind of discipline, capacity for discipline, you might get your feet tangled up underneath you. Either way, you're going to learn something this moon. And that's a positive thing. You should take that as a win, regardless of what happens.
All right, let's see. We've done our Qigong, we've done Ming, we've done slow. There was a question. We've kind of done our hexagrams.
Like it. Yes.
We did our hexagrams. We kind of did. Shout out.
We had two this time.
Yeah. Shout out Connie 3031.
3031.
When's it all gonna make sense? Because there's a snake that I know. Shout out Ann Hoffner.
How would you
She's
ask me
like,
that?
when's it all gonna make sense?
October.
Of which year?
October. Well, that might work actually. It's a rooster.
Okay. October 1978. It will all make sense.
Yeah. Well, it's a pattern recognition year, given that it's a wood snake year. So, you know, rolling back on the teachings of like paying attention to pattern, going deeper into this kind of in-between space, right? Why things are the way they are. It's a good question. I think it's more about, I think in any kind of self-cultivation of these ways, whether it be any kind of astrology or health practices, like it's really the motives behind the question that are more important than the answer to the question.
Word.
So I think that like, why do you want it to make sense? Would be a better.
Ooh, Dharma slap.
I'm not saying that I don't want to make it, but I know that the way that I would want it to make sense, the way that I would want to have it make sense might be not at all what she's thinking, right? So like, it's not that we don't want it to make sense, but like you should have a better comprehension of like why you want it to make sense, and that would actually provide you the answer.
Yeah, and right, sense for the spider is chaos for the fly, right? And so
Tragedy, at least.
yeah.
Yeah. And again, what angle are you looking at the whatever it is that you
The
want
right
to
one,
accept?
the best one.
Right. Yeah, that idea of that there is like you're only revealing your prejudice, and like that's okay. Like your prejudice, there's nothing wrong with your prejudice. Just understand when it's actually operative. That would be wise to know when your prejudice is actually at work. Because your prejudice actually does do good things for you. Like I don't eat cheese, I eat this. You know, like these are all, you know, this is, you know, acceptance of rejection. That's a sign of a very healthy emotional body. And
You hear that, bigots? It's okay to be prejudiced. Sign the trilogy.
Yeah, but their livers are kind of like calcified. All the bigots' livers are like, like hard as a rock, and that's why they drink so much, so they can feel their liver. That's not at all what I mean. Healthy physiology is where you should start, like how things relate and work together organ-wise. Then your prejudices can actually be a sign of something that's alive for you and not dead, like in the case of a bigot. That's more of a sign of a complete deficiency rather than like something that's like working through. Because I guarantee you, whatever way you want it to make sense now isn't the way you wanted it to make sense 5 years ago. So there is a process in that exploration of our prejudices.
You hear that, Anne? That's all for you. Hey, get back in the frame. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if that really endears us, endears others to ask us questions or not.
You want to get shat on? Ask us a question. You want your motivations of your questions checked? Ask us. That's what I loved about Ming. When people would ask him a question, he would rip up their question.
Right.
And make them feel stupid for asking. That's what
Yeah, well, he was trained by the best.
Yeah, man, I'm going to start integrating that.
Just carry around a little stick. Wrong question. Sifu, I didn't even finish it. Wrong question.
That's funny when everyone's so tripping off of getting the right answer. We're asking the wrong question.
Well, I mean, it's the illness of our society, or one of the central premises. One of the central premises of our society is that there is a right answer. We're convinced that there is one. That's why. That's the whole reason why you can be sold.
That took a second to hit. Like,
there is one. There is.
Yeah, mine answers. My answers are the right ones.
Well, or even worse, that it's on Instagram somewhere. In the form of a new magnetic something or other that can help you sleep better, etc.
Get my grounding nuts.
That on and on and on. Like the whole wellness industry is all predicated on the fact that the assumption that there is a right answer. So, yeah, I think again, I'm not saying don't do it, but it's only just helpful to understand that you have that prejudice, that you think that there is a right answer and you haven't found it yet. That would run counter to the cosmology that we're practicing in this moment with the calendar, because everything is self-resolving and self-arising.
There's big realization available. What you just said. Thank you.
It takes a lot to spell out, and like a lot of, in the talks I have with my clients, and then even in myself, it's like, listen, like you have to start with the fact that you are, you're working against your own conditioning. And that is actually the virtue of studying anything worthwhile, is that you come into relationship to your own conditioning, right? And then you can't say I'm gonna like purge this conditioning, because that's the same aggression that the conditioning actually supports. So you have to slowly just kind of recognize it's there, and not even say it's valid or invalid, but just leave enough spaciousness in it for it to eventually fly out the window on its own. And then whenever it comes up again, you're like, oh yeah. It doesn't have to be anything more than that. I think that's part of this, the Taoist portion of this cosmology is to continuously work with, like, you don't really know what the hell's going on. And like, that's okay. And whatever you think is going on, it isn't going to stick around for very long, unless you go around and like keep putting it in your lap again, over and over again, insisting on its validity. Turns out that's very strenuous. And turns out it shortens your lifespan when you do that, like, and we're all going to do it to some extent, especially since we're so conditioned to do it in this particular country. So it's nothing to fight over. There's no major revolution. There's only just like taking note of when it comes around.
Right.
And just having another option, of like, oh yeah, and see what it does. Oh, it left. Like, and that's all it can be. That's all it has to be. But you still have to pay taxes and like
Chocolate cherry water.
fuel up your car, and so like, I'm not saying it's an uphill swim. It's just to say that, like, if you're looking for a revelation that's going to take you into the right answer, that's not what this is.
Yeah, no silver bullet.
Yeah, it's just a practice. Man, that was a total tangent. Oof.
It was a fun one. Hey, next month will be 3 years of our production. He's clapping for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, we started in a goat moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3
And then
years
we
ago.
went to a goat moon.
Yeah.
And then we did another goat moon.
Yeah.
And now we're coming on our third.
And it's
goat
really interesting that it's a goat moon, because I think that was kind of a really cool understanding that this was going to be, and I remember when we first started too, because I was like, I want us to like celebrate this tradition and like be family and give it and like bring it out to people.
Yeah, and I remember you saying, like, I'm gonna talk about this stuff anyway.
I think that was the first thing I
with or
said.
without
Like, I
you.
practice on myself. I don't care.
So, like, this is just what I talk about. Like, whether we kick it or not, I'm still gonna be talking about this stuff. So.
That was a self-defense mechanism. That was my own prejudice at the time.
And then, I don't know what I was thinking too, but usually we don't start in the end of summer, right? It's like usually
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
kick off something in the spring or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
Here we are, 3 years later.
Still doing it.
I love you, Shannon.
I love you too, brother. Yeah. But and also for anybody who's going to be tuning back in next moon, don't freak out. There's going to be 2 of them.
Yeah, 2 goat moons.
There's 2 goat moons this year, and next moon we'll talk about why that is. Because it's not going to be the same story. It's going to be a similar story, but like it'll be a little bit different from one moon to the next.
Yeah, same, but different.
Yeah, because some of the indicators will be changing.
Good show.
Yeah.